Thank you so much, Professor Kaku. So before we let everybody else have their say, I'm lucky enough to get first dibs. So I read your book, and one of the things that I found really fascinating was your discussion of artificial intelligence. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not artificial intelligence is going to save everyone or doom us all. And I was wondering if you could maybe tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think we've been brainwashed by Hollywood into thinking that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come after us in a Terminator outfit and destroy humanity. Let's look at the facts. One of our most advanced robots is called Asimo. You've seen him on television. Asimo can run, walk, jump, climb upstairs, and even dance. He dances much better than me, in fact. And I had a chance to interview the creator of the world's most advanced robot for BBC television. And I said to himself, compared to an animal, how smart is the world's smartest robot? He was very honest. He said his creation, Asimo, has the intelligence of a cockroach, a stupid cockroach, a retarded stupid cockroach.
So I have a really, really terrible cockroach phobia, so this is not comforting.
But as the years go by, I said to myself, eventually it'll be as smart as a mouse, then as smart as a rat, then as smart as a rabbit, smart as a cat or a dog, and then as smart as a monkey. By the end of the century, they could become dangerous. Because monkeys know they are monkeys. Robots do not know they are robots. But monkeys know they are monkeys. Now, dogs, on the other hand, dogs are confused. Dogs think that we are a dog. We're the top dog, and they're the underdog. But monkeys, they're not confused at all. I think when our robots become as smart as a monkey with self-awareness, we should put a chip in their brain to shut them off if they have murderous thoughts.
Easy as that, right?
Yeah, but that's not for a while. Another 100 years, I think, before robots become that smart.
Okay, good to know. So speaking of science fiction, you're a fan, I'm a fan, and we were having a chat earlier about some things on which we disagree. Do we want to go into that?
Yes, well, first of all, whenever I watch a science fiction movie, my first reaction is, I cringe. I calculate how many laws of physics they violated in the last 15 minutes. But then I say to myself, now, wait a minute. This is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fiction. You see, when I was a child, I actually had two role models. The first role model was Albert Einstein, because I wanted to complete what he couldn't complete, which we think we can do now with string theory. But on Saturday mornings, I used to watch Flash Gordon on television, and I was hooked. I mean, ray guns, invisibility shields, cities in the sky. What's there not to love with Flash Gordon? So whenever I watch science fiction, I cringe. But then I say to myself, now wait a minute. Children are watching this same movie. They don't know the laws of physics, but they love science as a consequence. So I say to myself, okay, if H.G. Wells could inspire Goddard, and if Edgar Rice Burroughs of Tarzan could inspire Carl Sagan, all power to them. So I think that even if I have to cringe, that's the price you pay.
Look, I'm not disagreeing. But you have to admit that when you hear things like it's a sphere of pure energy, a little bit of you dies inside.
Yes, that's right.
So we're just saying that it's worth the sacrifice. Physicists dying a little bit, generations of scientists, and progress for humanity.
Yeah, but I speak to scientists a lot, and I ask them how many people in the audience, as children, were inspired by Star Trek. And a lot of them are NASA scientists, and a lot of them raise their hand and say that, yeah, when they were kids, Star Trek paved the way for them to become a NASA scientist. So that's the price we pay.
Fair enough. So what meets your standard? What would you say is good science fiction then?
Well, one of my favorite science fiction movies is the movie 2001. Mm-hmm. The only thing wrong was they got the date wrong. 2001, no, 2100. 2100 will have thinking robots, we'll have spaceships to Jupiter. But you see, that movie was very interesting because the aliens usually have makeup on them, like on Star Trek, they have makeup on their noses, and they're just actors. But in 2001, the aliens are, well, they have robots that are self-replicating. They can make copies of themselves. And that is the most efficient way to explore the galaxy. Forget Captain Kirk. Forget the Enterprise. There are too many planets out there. You take a robot and it lands on the moon, makes copies of itself, as in the movie. Thousands of copies, which then go out and make more copies, and then you have an exponential explosion of robotic probes that colonize the Milky Way galaxy in 100,000 years. Now, who else does that? Mother Nature. Mother Nature has a virus which lands on your cell, makes hundreds of copies of itself, which land on other cells, makes more copies, and then in 2 weeks, you start to sneeze. Amazing. A molecule can cause you to sneeze in 2 weeks. That's the way to colonize the galaxy. Self-replicating robots. And it's all in the movie 2001.
So our aim is to be a sort of cosmic cold.
Yeah.
Very inspiring.
Well, what about you? I'm sure there's some movies that make you cringe.
I have thoughts about Interstellar, yes. There's no way that should have been a manned mission. The planet was definitely inside the Schwarzschild radius, and love is not the strongest force in the universe. Whole rant, perhaps another time. But the black hole was absolutely beautiful. And that's actually what frustrated me, because they got all the hard stuff right. And I love the circular wormhole. That was amazing. But actually, that actually did get me thinking, and again, sort of thinking back to your book. One of the things I really loved, and this is the great thing about science fiction, I think, is that you can paint a picture of something that's far in the future and far beyond what we can do right now. And you look at something like that and you think, how could we possibly get there? Here is where we are, that's what's over there, and you can't see the connection. And when I was reading your book, I would often find you would open with an idea that, you know, sort of laser teleportation that made me sort of think, really? You know, I was with you along here, but really, are we going to get there? But then you would bring it back and talk about what we actually have today, and then really take me through logically how we could make these incredible advances. And I thought that was really fascinating. I'd love to hear more.
One example is that Isaac Asimov wrote about us being pure energy, rocketing through outer space at the speed of light as pure energy. And when I read that, I said to myself, that's stupid. I mean, how can we become pure energy and explore the galaxy? And then I realized it is possible, because one day we will digitize the human body, digitize our memories, digitize our brain cells, and all that information will create a carbon copy of ourselves, and we'll be immortal. You go to the library, and instead of taking a book about Winston Churchill, you'll talk to Winston Churchill, because he's been digitized. I would love to talk to Einstein. I would love to sit down and talk to him, because he's been digitized. Everything known about him has been digitized. So we take this information, put it on a laser beam, and shoot it to the moon. In 1 second, you're on the moon. No booster rockets, no accidents. In 20 minutes, you're on Mars. In 6 hours, you're on Pluto. In 4 years, you're on the nearby stars. And let me stick my neck out. I think this already exists. I think aliens in outer space, they don't deal with flying saucers. That's so 20th century. No, they don't deal with booster rockets and meteorite impacts and accidents, weightless, all the horrible things about space travel. No, they digitize themselves, shoot their consciousness at the speed of light across an intergalactic laser highway. And if there's a laser highway next to us, we are too stupid to even know it. We don't even have the instruments capable of detecting a laser highway where billions of souls rocket at the speed of light throughout the galaxy.
So, but you're right, we are kind of stupid. But where does that leave us with the ethics of all of this? So thinking about something like implanting memories. I mean, as you said, there are all sorts of incredibly cool applications of that, but it's also a little bit uneasy making.
Yes, as I mentioned 2 years ago, in mice, the first memories were recorded and then played back, and the mouse remembered something that they did months earlier. Now we're doing it on primates at Emory University and also in Los Angeles. Next will be Alzheimer's patients. So an Alzheimer's patient will push a button and then memories come flooding into their hippocampus. They remember who they are. Now at MIT, they even inserted the first false memory into a mouse. That raises all sorts of ethical considerations. Because one day, you will go to the CD store or video store, and you'll get that vacation that you never had. However, it has to be clearly marked. This vacation is fake. You never went to Cancun. You never went to Hawaii. But what happens if you remove that? Then memories could become all mixed up. And the police are going to have a hard time. Eyewitness accounts of memories can't be trusted anymore. So I think we have to be very careful. It's a very powerful technology, but BrainNet is coming because we can already tape record certain memories. And some people think that one day we'll learn calculus. We'll learn calculus by pushing a button and having all that knowledge put into our mind. Just like the movie Matrix. Remember the movie The Matrix, where life itself was an illusion? In fact, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you people out there, late at night, just before you go to sleep, how many people here have had that weird feeling that maybe, just maybe, life is an illusion? Like in the movie The Matrix, that you're the only real person. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you ever had that feeling.
I mean, now I do.
Oh my God. You guys are crazy. I'm in a room with all these crazy people. How can you be the only one in the universe when I'm the only one in the universe? I'm actually in New York right now, just about to go to sleep, having my memories uploaded. Come on, give me a break.
Well, so now we're all thoroughly terrified. But you're still pretty optimistic, though, about where we're going and how we're going to get there. How do you stay that optimistic?
When I encounter people, many people are pessimistic about the future, and I tell them that's because there's a gene for pessimism, because our ancestors were pessimistic, they were cautious, because our ancestors, our ape ancestors who were not cautious, died because they took too many risks, and those genes never spread. So I think there is a pessimism gene. But I think history is made by the optimists. As General Eisenhower once said, wars are won by optimists, never pessimists. Pessimists do not make history. But on the other hand, science, you see, there's no gene for science. We're not born with a gene for science. We are born, I think, with a gene for gossip, for jumping to conclusions, for making up stories. I think there is a gene for that. But there's no gene for science. And so I think that optimism, scientific outlook is an acquired taste, that you have to develop a feel for it. Now, my personal attitude is the smallest unit of history is the decade. Anything smaller than a decade, you get random fluctuations. And when you look at history, decade by decade, then you realize the enormous progress that we've had. I mean, my grandparents lived in a world where high-speed travel was getting stuck in the mud with your wagon, and long-distance communication was yelling out the window, and life expectancy was about 45 years of age. You know what they say? Life is short, you're born, you grow up, and then you die. Life's a bitch. Well, yeah, life is a bitch. But then came science. Now we can live into our 70s and 80s. Now we have high-speed travel, we have the internet. We've opened up new worlds to mess up.
So inspiring. I like life is precarious, eat dessert first.